Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Jai. So, welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's very spacious today in the temple room. We can stretch out. Today we're reading from Canto 11. We're starting a new chapter, which is chapter 18. It's called Description of Varnashram Dharma. And I think you've already been hearing, the previous chapter had the same title actually. Because we're continuing with the description of Varnashram Dharma. And we've already covered Brahmachari and Grihastha. So today we're going to do Vanaprastha ashram, and then tomorrow Sannyas. So we're going through the Varnashram system. And which verse are we doing? Text 1? Okay, let's just do text 1. So we'll recite the first verse of this chapter. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Vanam Vivikshu Putreshu Bharyam Nyasya Sahaiva Vana Eva Vasach-chantas Tritiyam Bhagamayusaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Vanam Vivikshu Putreshu Bharyam Nyasya Sahaiva Vana Eva Vasach-chantas Tritiyam Bhagamayusaha. Let's chant. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Vanam Vivikshu Putreshu Bharyam Nyasya Sahaiva Vana Eva Vasach-chantas Tritiyam Bhagamayusaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Vanam Vivikshu Putreshu Bharyam Nyasya Sahaiva Vana Eva Vasach-chantas Tritiyam Bhagamayusaha. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Vanam vivikshu putreshu Bharyam yasya sahaibhava Vana eva vaseschantas Tritiyam bhagamayushaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Vanam vivikshu putreshu Bharyam yasya sahaibhava Vana eva vaseschantas Tritiyam bhagamayushaha. All right, let's do the word for word all together. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Vanam, the forest, Vivikshu, desiring to enter, Putreshu, among the sons, Bharyam, wife, Nyasya, entrusting, Saha, together with, Eva, indeed, Va, or, Vane, in the forest, Eva, certainly, Vasat, one should dwell, Shantaha, with a peaceful mind, Tridiyam, the third, Bhagam, division, Ayushaha, of life. So let's read the translation here together. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who desires to adopt the third order of life, Vanaprastha, should enter the forest with a peaceful mind, leaving his wife with his mature sons, or else taking her along with him. Someone please read the purport.
In Kali Yuga, human beings generally not live more than 100 years. And when this is becoming most unusual, a man who has a reasonable expectation of living for 100 years may adopt the Vanaprastha order at the age of 50. And then at the age of 75, he may take sannyas for complete renunciation. Since in Kali Yuga, very few people live for 100 years, one should adjust the schedule accordingly. Vanaprastha is intended as a gradual transition from materialistic family life to the stage of complete renunciation.
Srila Prabhupada, disciples of Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so this is about Vanaprastha. And the first thing that we notice here in this verse is that the word va, which means or. In other words, you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. So within all of the ashrams, there's scope for flexibility. In Vanaprastha stage, either, husband and wife can separate and do service in different places, different areas, or they can stay together and they can, go on pilgrimage or preach together, or, they can live together. But the key here with Vanaprastha is that the whole Vanaprastha ashram is for the purpose of developing gradual detachment from family life. Because, Grihastha ashram, it's very binding. You become very attached to your spouse, to your children, family, relatives, your home, like the whole situation. And basically, the Varnashram system is, like Prabhupada says, stepping stones for spiritual understanding. And it's like different stages that take us, or you could think of it as like we're all on the road back to Godhead. We're on this bhakti marg. So marg means path. We're on this path of bhakti, which is taking us back to the spiritual world, with our eternal constitutional position in the spiritual world serving Krishna. So along the road, there are different stretches that you have to pass through, and there are different milestones that you need to pass through. And so, the first stretch is brahmachari. So in brahmachari ashram, it's about, training, education, where you're studying the shastras, you're practicing a disciplined life, learning from a spiritual teacher, serving that teacher humbly and submissively, and practicing celibacy, restraining one's dealings with the opposite sex. So those are the principles of brahmachari. And even within brahmachari, that can look different ways for different people, but those principles need to be there, especially celibacy and study of the scriptures. So the main things for brahmacharis. And then grihastha. So sometimes you can think of life as like a bell curve. Do you know what a bell curve is? Yeah, but
It looks like a bell.
it looks like a bell. It's like it's a type of graph, and it's kind of like they use it to map out like biological or chemical processes where you start with something. Let's say you put things in a test tube, and then they immediately start to react. So there's a rapid increase in the rate of reaction, the heat that's being generated because of that, if it's an exothermic reaction and all that. But then comes a point where the substrate, the ingredients that are causing the reaction are being broken down into other molecules that no longer are reactive. So it peaks out, and then it gradually starts to go down, and then all the fizzling and bubbling and heat that's being emanated, and that is all, it just kind of like diminishes to nil again. So life is like that. We're born, we grow, we maintain our situation for some time, we reproduce, Prabhupada says we produce some byproducts, and then we gradually dwindle and die. That's just the way life is, no matter who you are, what kind of body you have, what species of life we're all going to go through that. Of course, if you die prematurely, you might just get hit by a car right there at the peak of life, but generally the natural order of things is that it's a bell curve. And then along that bell curve, there are other kind of mini bell curves. So Brahmachari ashram goes through its own bell curve, where you join the ashram, you're like really fired up. I want to learn, I want to read the Bhagavad Gita, I want to discipline myself and Mangal Arati every day, and go out there and distribute books or whatever. And you're really fired up to just be a brahmachari and discipline yourself and control your senses and regulate your eating and all that. And then it comes a time where, the ashram kind of starts getting a little old, that disciplined life, this very simple life, just doing menial services. And, you kind of feel like I need to branch out, I need to do other things in my life now. So brahmachari kind of comes to a close, but then it's like, although brahmachari is ending, it's not the end, it's like the beginning of another bell curve. So then you gradually transition into grihastha ashram, and grihastha ashram starts off slow in one sense, right? You need to find a person, you need to get to know the person, you need to figure out whether it's going to work. Even after you get married, it's like you start off with not too much, going on. You need to, and then gradually, you get a career, you have some income that also grows as you go on. You get your house, and then you need to then gradually you need to renovate it and, install your altar and your deities and, get furniture and, all that stuff. So, wow, Nitai, Hare Krishna. He's really good. So then, but then, and then you start having kids, so it's going up now, and as the kids, and as now it's all their stuff, and and all these social relationships expand. So it's like going up, 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 up. And Bhagavatam says that, it's like a marriage. First there's attraction between men and women, and then from that comes, marriage and land and wealth and children and relatives and so forth. But then that also starts to wind down after a while, right? Your children start growing up, they start getting married and leaving the house, and your relationship with your spouse starts getting a little old. The same attraction is not there as it used to be. And the house is falling apart, it's becoming more of a headache just to maintain it. And it's kind of like, I think this is over, it's dwindling. And then, but it's also, that's not the end. Now it's the beginning of another stage. So that's the stage of Vanaprastha. So then Vanaprastha is like an exciting stage where it's like, all right, now our duties are done as far as the family and the children and that. And now it's kind of like we're free again, and now we can just devote ourselves to service, and then that can look in different ways. Either you can go to the forest together. Prahlad recommends to his father, he's like, Dad, it's time to take Vanaprastha. You need to go to the forest. And Prabhupada says there in the purport that the forest, right in the translation, he says the forest of Vrindavan. He says, go to Vrindavan. So that's a time where you leave all the complex entanglements of, material family life, and you go to Vrindavan. So how you go to Vrindavan, there are different ways you can go to Vrindavan. You can either physically go to Vrindavan and live, in the geographical area of Vrindavan, or you can just go to a more of a Vrindavan state of consciousness, where you're really just taking shelter of Krishna, and more taking shelter of Krishna. So let's go a little bit further here in the verses, because now we're going to get into some more of the details and principles of how Vanaprastha ashram, what it entails. So we'll just read all the translations. There's not that many of them. We're just going up to text 11. So text 2, somebody.
Having adopted the Vanaprastha order of life, one should arrange one's sustenance by eating uncontaminated bulbs, roots, and fruits that grow in the forest. One may dress oneself with tree bark, grass, leaves, or animal skins.
Next one.
The Vanaprastha should not groom the hair on his head, body, or face, should not manicure his nails, should not pass stool and urine at irregular times, and should not make a special endeavor for dental hygiene. He should be content to take a bath in water 3 times daily, and should sleep on the ground.
Okay, so this sounds like a pretty rough life here. I know, when you stop there, it's kind of like, keep going. So let's just look at these 2 verses. Does anybody know anyone who lives like this? Yeah, Sham? What's that? You see them on the road, it's homeless guys. Well, I don't know how regulated they are, but yeah, I guess you could say that's, yeah. So it's a yeah, they don't wear tree bark. In any sense, it's kind of like a perverted reflection, I guess. But so the description of Vanaprastha here, and you've been encountering this also with descriptions of Brahmachari and Grihastha ashram here in the 11th canto, is that there are details given which we don't really see very many people, if anyone, following in ISKCON. So what do we make of this? Like, how do we observe these points here in the Bhagavatam? Yeah, Zach?
So this manicuring, that means not cutting your hair, right?
Yeah,
So this will really help.
I guess so.
Claws.
Well, they're digging up roots and things, so they're maybe getting filed down naturally by.
So you have to like go in the woods and stuff. So you do that with your wife?
Either with your wife or without your wife. That's what I'm saying. It just depends on how you want to navigate it. Yeah. Sham?
How good of a health insurance do you need to like follow them?
I don't think in the traditional Vedic times, I don't think they had health insurance. They don't know dentists. Okay, but what I'm asking here is, how do we follow the Bhagavatam? How do we follow these verses in the present time, place, and circumstances? Govinda.
I was just thinking that one of the symptoms of surrender, which is Krishna consciousness, is doing what's favorable and rejecting what's unfavorable. So not necessarily everything that's described in the Vanaprastha system is favorable for our Krishna consciousness. All the details. Some things might be, but some things like maybe sleeping on the ground for somebody might not be, because then they won't be able to chant their rounds properly or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think the principle is what's fair.
Okay, good. So we don't have to follow all the details, but we have to accept the principle of the thing. So what's the principle here? Simplicity. Simple life. Yeah. So Vanaprastha life is about simplicity. It's about, don't make elaborate arrangements for your bodily comforts. Basically, just like simplify it. Whatever prasadam is there, take prasadam. You don't need to. You can wash your hair and comb your hair for women or men. Just keep your head shaved. Just keep it simple. You don't need to go down to the hair salon and get like a perm and have to use a curling iron and a blow dryer and whatever and have a like feather thing going like we used to do in the 80s. But yeah, just the minimum, you know, just keep it clean and neat and tidy so that you can do your service. Don't spend like 3 hours in the bathroom grooming yourself and doing makeovers and, you know, masks and pedicures and all this stuff. Yeah. Okay, so simplicity is a principle of Vanaprastha ashram. Let's read the next let's read the next verse.
Thus engaged in Vanaprastha, one should execute penance during the hottest summer days by subjecting oneself to burning fires on 4 sides and the blazing sun overhead. During the rainy season, one should remain outside, subjecting oneself to torrents of rain. In the freezing winter, one should remain submerged in water up to one's neck.
All right, fun times. So what's the principle here? Do hell first. Voluntary experience of hell. So you can save time and go back to Godhead in this life. Gopal?
I forgot part of what I was going to say, but one of the principles they adopt in ISKCON is the husband and wife travel to holy places together.
Yeah.
And Nagaraj told this story one time. You know, as far as 4 fires on one side, he said it was in India. He saw this guy sitting with these 4 little fires around him.
You actually saw that?
Little teeny fires, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
Yeah, some people actually do this stuff. Gopi,
The principle shown in this verse is just austerity and penance.
yeah,
But that would look very different for us because we just follow what the acharyas are giving us. And the acharyas are the ones that help contextualize things for us. So right now, we're part of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So austerity for us would be taking on difficulties to help share Krishna consciousness with others.
yeah, good. And you want to say, you remember what you wanted to say?
Yeah, as far as the grooming part, we're in all, you know, wearing tree bark and grooming. We're preachers. We're a preaching movement. ISKCON's a preaching movement. So you have to, you know, take care of your teeth and all that kind of stuff you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that goes along with what Gopi Jivana was saying. So our austerity is to voluntarily accept difficulties for the benefit of others in whatever way that happens in our service. And then, sorry, what was it that you just said? Oh, right. And so, yeah, so if we're preachers, then the simplicity comes into that we're going to, be simple in terms of how we take care of our material bodies, but presentable, you know, so that people will be not repulsed by, you know, like fingernails out to here or matted hair or something like that. Yeah, Nita.
So Advaita just made a comment that in book distribution you experience like all these like austerities, like yes, people reject you, or it's all the austerities are involved. Like when you're not feeling like it, you go out to like do books, like Gopi was saying.
Yeah. I mean, I did book distribution for many years, and I've definitely had this experience of standing out, subjecting myself to torrents of rain, standing in the blazing sun, in the freezing cold. It's actually sometimes like that. So, question is, why is austerity? What's the point of doing austerity? Like, why would you voluntarily, like, you know, cause physical discomfort to yourself? How is that beneficial in spiritual life? Because it's something that you see all throughout the scriptures: austerity, wealth of the Brahmin, and you know. Okay, Gopal says a higher purpose, it purifies us. Meet?
I think it's
is it Mike?
I think it's for
The people listening online.
I think it's meant to save time basically so that you can do more sadhana. And this verse 4 deeply reminds me of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. He was narrating his story, and if we see that he was in Himalayas and he used to chant his Gayatri in Gangotri, and he did so much penance and so much austerity. So when he came to New Vrindavan in the earlier days of ISKCON in New Vrindavan, it was very austere. But he thought it's sense gratification because he did more than that austerities in India.
Yeah.
So it was very easy for him to adapt to that kind of harsh environment, and then so austerity also helps us in saving time and energy both for Krishna.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was talking to someone who grew up in Mayapur, and she was saying that I'm very grateful for the way that I grew up because it was a very simple life and very austere. It's like it was just just the basics, not a lot of material comforts, difficult weather, and it was just very austere in many ways. And she feels like now it's like everything is just easy, like she can go anywhere, stay anywhere, do anything, and nothing is really uncomfortable because she just got used to, that's just life, it's just what it is. And but if, on the other hand, if you grow up with like a lot of material comforts and everything, you live in a cushioned and climate controlled environment, it's like like a lot of Westerners do, with all kinds of entertainment and everything at your disposal, then you go somewhere, it's like everything's hard, oh, it's so hot, oh, it's so cold, oh, I don't have this, the bed's too hard, or this, it's like everything is just annoying and difficult and painful and you can't take it. But yeah, it's good, especially when you're young, to do austerity. That's why brahmacharya ashram also, it's like this simplicity of it, that later in life, it's like you can deal with all kinds of things because you're just accustomed to it.
The definition of austerity, or one of the definitions, is to accept voluntary suffering for a higher purpose.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, on that point, I was thinking austerity can bring gratitude for the little things you have after some time, like you were saying. And also I feel like austerity builds detachment from the body and the surroundings, because naturally you start to realize you have to detach when you experience a lot of suffering.
Yeah. So that's the main thing, because austerity is good in any ashram, but specifically for Vanaprastha ashram, the reason it's recommended is because we're trying to develop detachment. So whenever you hurt yourself or you're really sick, you're just like, oh my God, this body is such a place of misery. I can't wait to get back to Godhead. Sometimes you might think like that. But when you're healthy and strong and your body's like, there's no excessive pains in the body, you're just like, woohoo, let's enjoy life, get out there and, play or this or that, or, so you feel like, actually, I can enjoy my material life in this body. But if your body is a source of pain, then it's easy to become detached from it and all the things related to it, and to stop identifying with it as the self, basically. Rasika Shirmani?
I think you basically covered my point just now, but that learning how to be equipoised no matter what's happening, and really to detach from bodily consciousness. So over time you can learn how to even have bodily pains that are happening as you get older or whatever, and not suffer as a result. You actually are able to remain equipoised.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because the way that the yogis do this is that, they're in the blazing sun and a burning fire or whatever. The way that that forces them, if they're very externally conscious, they're going to go crazy in that situation. They're going to just be screaming and they won't be able to tolerate it. So what they have to do is they have to pull their consciousness inside. They have to like really, fix the mind on Krishna or on the soul, and, they have to withdraw their consciousness from the external situation and become more internally absorbed. So that's a good practice. And that's why, Vanaprastha is meant to be done in old age, like over 50, when the body's starting to decline anyway, and you're heading into old age, where old age is full of aches and pains and things. And so it's meant to train us, to force us to go within, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that one who finds happiness within, who relishes joy within and peace within, and because they're experiencing me within, relationship with me within, then that person can be happy wherever they go, whatever situation they're in. Yeah, Rasika, you want to elaborate?
Well, I was just going to say that then I think you just covered it again, what I was going to say. But being able to even experience whatever pains and so forth that's going on, and you're able to actually keep the mind fixed in Krishna consciousness rather than constantly having the mind go, oh, I hurt here, I hurt there.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a training for the time of death, actually.
Yeah.
That's what that's what this is leading to.
That's what I was going to say, is if you do this when you're young, learn how to do it when you're young. As you get older, it's, much easier, much easier.
Yeah. And time of death, it's like, it's usually whatever situation is that's bringing up, most of the situations are quite painful. So if we practice this, like leading up, like through old age, then at the time of death, then you can just be totally absorbed in Krishna and not even, it's described that, these very advanced devotees, they don't even feel, it's just like a seamless transition from leaving the body and going back to Godhead. Anthony.
I don't know what you said, it seems to get exposure therapy over time. You're willing to
train your body to withstand harsh environments, and that catalyst is the mind. So it's just a training of the mind through the body. So utilizing the body to tame the mind. So like the body's the shoe and subdue the mind. But if anybody wants to go to the gym and do the sauna and cold plunge, you're invited.
Okay. Then, there's a lot of hands. Sham.
Well, then at the time of death, can't we just like overdose with morphine?
Well, the thing is that
it would be easier to think about Krishna because we won't be bothered about
ideally,
the
you want.
suffering.
He said, can't we just overdose with morphine at the time of death? We won't feel any pain.
They give morphine as a painkiller.
Huh?
Usually they use morphine as a painkiller.
Yeah.
So you can do the same.
Well, the problem with that is that it clouds your consciousness, and then you just become kind of like, and you can't think of anything. It's hard to think of Krishna. It's hard to, Rasika.
So, and also,
And also there's purification that's taking place at that time of life. So any leftover attachment to the body, or love of comfort, or attachment to physical life, to material life, it gets detached in that time. Any remnants.
Good. Gopal. And
I was really close to both my parents towards the end. And that's what they do in this country. They stick you in front of a TV set and dope you up on morphine for the last 3 months of their life.
It's really sad. It's basically just like forcing the person to be in the mode of ignorance. And that's like the last thing you want to be at the time of death, is like in the mode of ignorance. You want to be like on the transcendental platform. Okay, so there's a nice point here in the purport to text 4 where this verse here is quoted from the Pancharatra in relation to austerity. If one is worshipping the Lord properly, what is the use of severe penances? And if one is not properly worshipping the Lord, what is the use of severe penances? If Sri Krishna is realized within and without everything that exists, what is the use of severe penances? And if Sri Krishna is not seen within and without everything, then what is the use of severe penances? So the idea is that the penances are meant to make you remember Krishna. So if you're already remembering Krishna, then you don't need to do the austerities. If you're already off the bodily concept of life, you know you're a soul, you know you're eternal servant of Krishna, and you're thinking of Krishna, and you're serving Krishna, then you don't need to do additional austerities. And that's the point. Okay, let's go on here to text 5. Someone please read.
One may eat foodstuffs prepared with fire, such as grains or fruits ripened by time. One may grind one's food with mortar and stone or with one's own teeth.
Okay, so here also is giving a little scope for flexibility, because in text 2, they were saying that the person should just eat bulbs, roots, and fruits that grow naturally, but this verse is saying that you can also eat foods prepared with fires. That means cooking. So you can actually cook grains. You can grind grains into flour, or you can make chapatis, you can cook. So there's some scope there. All right, text 6.
Vanaprastha should personally collect whatever he requires for his bodily maintenance, carefully considering the time, place, and his own capacity. He should never collect provisions for the future.
So what's the principle here? Depending on Krishna. You just depend on Krishna. That Krishna is my maintainer. Krishna is my protector. I don't need to, stash things and accumulate things. I'm just going to have the minimum, what I need today, and depend on Krishna for what I need tomorrow. What's that? No Tupperware. Actually, it says here that I read that. Yeah, fixed dependence on the Lord. It says, one should never stock food or other bodily necessities for future use. The term Deshakala Balabhigya indicates that in a particularly difficult place or in time of emergency or personal incapacity, this strict rule need not be followed. So, let's say if you're going on a long walk across the desert or something, then you might want to pack some extra water and food, So, in a particular time, place, or circumstance for emergency, then it's okay. And this applies also not just in terms of stashing food and money and whatever, but it also is about, the idea is to depend on Krishna. So it says that one shouldn't depend on one's storage stuff, and also one shouldn't depend on others for one's personal maintenance, because this creates a debt that can be repaid by taking another birth in the material world. Because you see, you're in old age and you've got somebody serving you. So then how are you going to repay that person? You can't return the service to them because you're incapacitated. So you have to take birth again to repay the debt that person, that you owe that person for their service. So that becomes problematic, right? But then it's explained here that only applies to those who are not engaged full-time in devotional service. So if you're not engaged in full-time devotional service, then it's risky to accept service from others. But if you are just totally serving Krishna and somebody's serving you, then you don't become indebted, because the person's not actually serving you, they're serving Krishna by serving, because their service to you is facilitating your service to Krishna. So it's all for the benefit of Krishna. It's all for the pleasure of Krishna. So they're indirectly serving Krishna. Sham.
But what if someone is just serving because it's something they want to do? Then does it also become debt?
I think so, yeah, because you're still accepting the service.
Whom?
What's that?
But it's a debt to whom?
The person who's being served.
But if the person who's serving doesn't consider it as
like
debt,
labor.
Yeah, considers it as.
But even so, whenever there's an offering of service, whenever somebody gives you something, you become indebted to them. Whether they want to or they don't want to or whatever, for whatever reason, they're still offering you something. You need to offer something back. Of course, in the case of serving one's guru, then the guru is also there's a service relationship because they're speaking, they're instructing, they're helping them with they're guiding them in their life. That's a service. So there's an exchange of service. But if somebody's, just not able to do that, but still they should, it says here, a pure devotee eats, dresses, and speaks only for the service of the Lord. So if somebody is helping you to eat, is helping you to get dressed, all that, then because you're doing that for the service of the Lord, then that person's also serving the Lord. Okay, let's go ahead, text 7.
Should perform seasonal sacrifices by offering oblations of karu and sacrificial cakes prepared from rice and other grains found in the forest. The Vanaprastha, however, may never offer animal sacrifices to me, even those sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas.
Text 8.
So Vanaprastha should perform the Agnihotra, Dasha, and Purnamasa sacrifices as he did while in Grahastha ashram. He should also perform the vows and sacrifices of Chaturmasya, since all these rituals are enjoyed for the Vanaprastha ashram by the expert knowers of the Vedas.
All right, what's the principle here in these verses? You have to do some yajna. You have to do some kind of sacrifice. So these are some examples of sacrifices. What's our sacrifice? Sankirtan yajna. Yes, and the purport to text 8, it says, it's interesting. It says, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a detailed explanation of the 4 rituals mentioned here, namely Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, and Chaturmasya. The conclusion is that everyone should simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and avoid the difficult entanglement of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. If one neither chants Hare Krishna nor performs such rituals, one certainly becomes a pashandi, or an atheistic fool. So we have to do some sacrifice, and the sacrifice, but we have to do the recommended sacrifice, not just any old thing that we feel like doing. So what's recommended for us in Kali Yuga, according to our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, is chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, so Vanaprastha should chant Hare Krishna a lot, at least 16 rounds. Okay, then text 9.
The saintly Vanaprastha, practicing severe penances and accepting only the bare necessities of life, becomes so emaciated that he appears to be mere skin and bones. Thus, worshipping me through severe penances, he goes to the Maharloka planet and then directly achieves me.
Okay, so the Vanaprastha goes back to Godhead. Rasika.
Verse 10.
Yep.
One who with long endeavor executes this painful but exalted penance, which awards ultimate liberation, simply to achieve insignificant sense gratification, must be considered the greatest fool.
All right, yeah, so these principles of Vanaprastha, the simplicity and austerity, dependence on the Lord, performing yajnas, they actually give a person a lot of power. So somebody might perform these things, observe these principles for the sake of sense gratification. And Krishna is saying that's just really foolish. Like, don't abuse the process. Do it for the right purpose, because you can actually get liberation. You can go back to Godhead by following these things with the right consciousness. So don't misuse them just for sense gratification. Waste your life, basically. Okay, then the last verse here. Text 11.
If the Vanaprastha is overtaken by old age and because of his trembling body is no longer able to execute his prescribed duties, he should place the sacrificial fire within his heart by meditation. Then, fixing his mind on me, he should enter into the fire and give up his body.
All right, so here, enter into the fire, it's talking about the sacrificial fire. So again, our sacrificial fire is the fire of Sankirtan. So absorption in the holy name. So if because of old age, because Vanaprastha is old age and different people get older quicker. In other words, in terms of like how approaching death, some people, it's not, some people die over 100, some people will leave their body in their 60s or so. So if one hasn't been practicing Vanaprastha for very long, but they feel like death is coming soon, then just forget about everything else and enter into the fire. Just get totally absorbed in chanting the holy name. Just totally enter yourself, enter your existence, fix the mind on Krishna and go back to Godhead. So that's Vanaprastha ashram, the description given here. I also want to talk a little bit, there's not a lot of time, but probably a few minutes. There's no lunch, so we can skip breakfast too. We can have breakfast for lunch and then skip breakfast. That it's just interesting how, the Varnashram system is Krishna's system. So it's the perfect system. He says, Chaturvarna Mayashrista, that I created this system. And whatever Krishna creates, it's the perfect, complete system. And we see how the orders of life, the ashrams, they work with the natural psychology and the biology of the human being. So, it's like when you're young, the psychology is that you want to learn, you want to know about the world, and at that time, so that's the age of education. So that's the age when you study the scriptures, you live with a guru, gurukula, ashram life, like that. And then in one's 20s, then the senses become very strong. And also you want to expand, in your 20s, it's like this thing of I want to go places, I want to do things, I want to achieve things in the world, I want to make my mark, So it's like that's the ashram where it's okay, your senses are strong, get out there and do something, get married, have children, passion is very strong. So you can use all those things productively in the world in the service of Krishna. And then comes a time where like your biology, even like research has shown that for males, the production of testosterone reduces significantly after the age of 40. So the pushings of the senses and, those hormonal pressures are starting to subside. And then for women, the whole reproductive system just totally shuts down, somewhere around age 50, a little before, a little after. And it's just like, the body's just like, it's over, you're done. And then also there's hormone changes that just make the senses less strong. So of course, the urge of the genitals never goes away. As long as you have a body, it will be there, but it's substantially less. And so that helps. It helps to be able to renounce, detach, and just let go of all those things. And then at the same time, there's this phenomenon of, the midlife crisis. So what happens during a midlife crisis, there's been a lot of study on it, and the common theme with everyone who has a midlife crisis, which a lot of people go through, is this feeling of being trapped. It's like a situation where you just want to totally, like maybe you want to change your career, or people will go and they'll just want a new look, a new scene. Maybe sometimes they get tired of their old friends and they want to launch into a whole different social direction. It's like they just want to revamp their life in serious ways. Maybe they'll get plastic surgery, maybe they'll leave one spouse and get another one. It's like they just need a big change. So that midlife crisis psychology, that phenomenon that leads to the midlife crisis, is it's Krishna. It's wired into the psychology of the human being because it's meant to push you into Grihastha ashram. It's meant to make you feel like, oh my God, this Grihastha ashram, it's like, it's very confining. It's like, I feel trapped here. I'm in this space and I can't go anywhere. And I have to be in this house at this time with this person and doing this thing. It's like you get trapped into these roles and designations and confinement, and you just want to get free from it. And you want to go somewhere else and have a new life. And that's what Vanaprastha ashram gives you the opportunity to do. So like I said, it's the start of a new bell curve. So it's exciting. It's not that when each ashram ends, it's the end of one, but it's like it's a new beginning. So Krishna conscious life, the whole Varnashram system, if you go through it properly, it's very exciting. You know, it's like you get into something and you do it and it runs its course and fizzles out and here we go into the next one. It's new, it's exciting again, and it is expanding and then it runs its course. And in each one of those bell curves, each one of those ashrams, you get a specific type of like purification because it's a different experience. So each ashram purifies us in different ways. So if you just stay in brahmachari ashram, there may be some anarthas that can't get out in that ashram. When you go into grihastha ashram, then it's like a different detergent, you know? It's like, sometimes I think about it as like, you have a cloth, like we're in the material world. Our consciousness is pure, but due to material association, we get contaminated consciousness. And it's like you got this white sheet and it's just covered with all kinds of stains, you know, there's mud, there's food stains, there's blood stains, there's whatever, oil stains, there's everything on that sheet, right? So some kinds of detergent, maybe just soap and water will take out the dirt. You know, maybe you need like another, like just wash, like a stronger detergent or bleach and vinegar, or maybe you need like a heavy solvent, you know, like paint thinner or something to get, if you've got paint or motor oil or something on there. So it's like brahmachari ashram is a certain, you know, maybe it's just the soap and water. And then grihastha, you get in there with the bleach and, you know, literally bleach your dhotis, you know, bleach, and you get some more things out. And then vanaprastha is like, okay, time for the paint thinner. And then like, so, yeah, if we, whatever, depending on our anarthas, our type of material contamination that we have, we need to go through these things. And that's why some people, not everybody needs to go through grihastha ashram. They can just go straight from brahmachari to sannyas, because they've probably gotten those anarthas out in previous lifetimes, and they just need a little soap and water, and they can become clean and go with that and be fine. But most of us have been here for a long time. We got a lot of stains to get out, and we need a serious cleaning cycle. So multiple cleaning cycles with different detergents. So, but it's all, the good thing is it's all positive. You know, it's all positive. It's exciting. It's like there's always a fresh start, and then tomorrow we'll hear about sannyas ashram. So, Vanaprastha ashram ki jai. Any questions or comments? Yeah, anytime.
You're saying all this based on your experience as a Vanaprastha.
Yeah.
How has it been exciting for you?
Oh, it's been very exciting for me. I would say Vanaprastha is the best. I mean, it's a really good life because, yeah, it's like, yeah, I was a brahmacharini living the ashram for several years, and then, you know, I got married and I had children, raised my children, Krishna consciousness. We went to Vrindavan and all that, and yeah, it was good. But then I was feeling confined. I was feeling the constrainment, and now Vanaprastha is like you're again, kind of like, you know, back in the ashram again. You don't have to. I mean, it can look different ways. For me, it was back in the ashram again, but now with like a lot more maturity, knowledge, realization, less material desires, you know, because you work through a lot of material desires in the grihastha ashram, and there's a lot more freedom, you know. It's kind of another way of looking at it is like a caterpillar, you know, like the life cycle of a caterpillar. So the caterpillar, what is he doing? Caterpillar's just eating, like he's just munching leaves. That's all he does is munch leaves. It's nothing else that a caterpillar does except eat. So that's like brahmachari ashram. You're just eating. You're just like, you're just taking it in. You're hearing, you're learning, you're taking prasadam, right? You're doing your spiritual practices. It's like you're investing in yourself. So that when you go into your grihastha ashram, you're going to be strong. You're going to be able to maintain your Krishna consciousness. You're going to be able to even support others. So the grihastha ashram is like the caterpillar going into the cocoon. So cocoon, then he builds this whole thing around him. So you get in the grihastha ashram life, you get a whole thing around you. The house, the kids, the wife, the husband, the family, the social obligations, the job, the whatever, you know, mortgage. You basically trap yourself in a situation. But that situation is all about transformation. Because what's going on in the cocoon, it looks like it looks like nothing's happening, it's just sitting there, totally dormant. But in that state of like just being kind of trapped in there, he's totally changing his body. You know, he's becoming something else. Huh? Yeah, he's going through all that. But the idea is like the caterpillar can't stay in the cocoon forever. If he stays in the cocoon, he's going to die, right? Because he's not eating. It's like in Grihastha ashram, it's like sometimes you're not able to do your everyday reading. Sometimes you're not able to go to the full morning program. So in some ways, you're not getting nourished so much, but you're transforming. You're getting free of a lot of material desires. You're rooting out those very deep attachments, getting out those really, set in anarthas. But then comes a point where the caterpillar needs to break free from the cocoon. So the same way, all the transformation that happens in the Grihastha ashram, then it's time to, get out and like fly, And then when the caterpillar emerges from the cocoon, he doesn't come out a caterpillar, he comes out a butterfly, and he's beautiful, and he's got wings, and he can soar, from flower to flower. So that's what Vanaprastha ashram is. It's like now you've got wings, and you're free, and you're strong, and you're new, and you're beautiful, and you can fly, place to place. You can travel, you can preach, you can do so many services, and it's great. Okay. So yeah, it's in Krishna consciousness. There's always something to look forward to. And it's kind of like, in one sense, it may seem strange to talk about Vanaprastha ashram to young people who are not yet married even, or just starting Grihastha ashram. But it's good to kind of like know where you're going, know what the steps are, that we're on a path, and it's not a dead end. There's no dead end in Krishna consciousness. We're always just moving forward. And it's like, you need to know how to go into Grihastha ashram strong. And you also need to know how to get exited. It's like Abhimanyu, he went into the Chatra Vyuha, he was surrounded, he knew how to get in, but he didn't know how to get out, and he ended up getting killed. So like we have to know how to get in smoothly and how to get out smoothly, and then we can live strongly and beautifully in Krishna consciousness.
Otherwise you get killed. Like everyone. Yeah, sure. So Prabhupada, in his Vanaprastha life, I was thinking of Prabhupada about how his Grihastha life was it's kind of really made him more and more detached.
Yeah.
And then he was really ready for his Vanaprastha life.
Yeah.
One day, basically, he just kind of caught up and moved out.
Yeah.
And he moved to Vrindavan, and he started preaching a lot more.
Yeah.
I was thinking, we could.
And writing.
Writing and preaching. And so with Prabhupada also, we could kind of see his example also, how when he saw that the Grihastha ashram wasn't as supportive for his service, he changed ashrams. And I guess that's also a principle, like each ashram has to support our devotional service.
Yeah.
And different phases of life, these different ashrams support our spiritual life more so than the other ones. So then it's like a time for change.
Yeah, it works with the natural psychology and biology and all that. Yeah, in terms of being killed in the, I actually have this quote from Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada, this is from 9:19-2. Prabhupada says, if one continuously or permanently concentrates on living with his family, he should be understood to be killing himself. Haribo. What's that? But the thing is, there's a couple more. I won't read them all because otherwise you get really depressed. Should I? No. It's fun? Okay. So this one's from 1:15:37. Don't rot in the dark well of family life until you're dragged out by Yamaraj. And then the last one I have here is from 1:13:24. To stick to family life till the end of your life is the grossest type of degradation. Some heavy statements. But the point here is that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to leave your family. But see what Prabhupada says, if you notice the wording, if one continuously or permanently concentrates on living with his family. So you can be physically, in the house with your wife or whatever, but that's not your concentration. That's not like what you're preoccupied with. You know, your husband is there, your wife is there, but you have another, your mission is something else. You know, like, yeah, for example, Kalakanta Prabhu, he lives there with his wife but his mind is on spreading Krishna house all over North America. You know, he's just thinking, you know, opening the next Krishna house, strengthening current Krishna houses, supporting devotees who are preaching, nurturing new devotees, you know, giving guidance and care to the devotees that he has, you know, influence in their lives. And that's where his concentration is. So, you know, but there may have been a time where, you know, he was focused on family life, you know, with kids and work and earning money and getting a house and all, paying bills and things. So, but that gradually diminishes. It's just a natural thing. It just gradually diminishes as long as we're not insistingly attached to it. The trouble with materialists is that they go against the natural cycles. As soon as they become disinterested in their spouse, they think that's a bad thing, and they leave that one and try to find another one that's more interesting. But they should see it as, this is good, this is natural, and this is helpful. It's good that my spouse is not so attractive to me anymore. You know, it's good that we're not passionately in love, you know, after 20 years of marriage. Because I'm going to move in another direction now, and this is helping me.
Just a funny joke. Somebody was asking Prabhupada about wife, and he said, I don't know if I'm exactly quoting him, but this is a paraphrasing from another devotee. So he said, if you get a good wife, a supportive wife, you'll advance in Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get a bad wife who's not supporting, then you'll become a pure devotee.
It's funny, one time a devotee was giving class in Mayapur, and he said, there should be no reason for divorce, of course, unless it's, you know, relationships really abusive, really, really bad or something. But, you know, if you don't like it, you find out you don't really like your husband or wife, don't worry, you just tolerate it for, you know, some years and take sannyas. And take Vanaprastha. He's like, Vanaprastha ashram is there to save you. So just you know, live it out to its end. And it's good, you know. Prabhupada, he told his father he didn't like his wife. And his father said, that's a good thing. Prabhupada actually wanted to marry another wife. He wanted to take a second wife. He said, no, don't do that. He said, it's good that you're not too attached to your wife. That will help you. And it did. So, you know, this life is so short, and we're trying to get back to Godhead. So if the material situations in our lives, relationships and all those things aren't perfect, it's like, whatever, you know, it's not that important. Don't worry about it too much. Just try to be Krishna conscious. Worry about chanting attentively. Worry about having a good relationship with you know, good association, a good relationship with your spiritual master, spiritual masters, and you know, serving, trying to remember Krishna, and let all those other things be whatever they may be according to our karma or according to whatever experience that we need to have. Don't like waste time trying to make everything perfect externally. It's never going to be perfect externally. Just make the best use of a bad bargain, just go with it, and focus on the real goal, which is attaining pure Krishna consciousness and going back home. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.